Hey everybody, welcome back to the program. I am so excited. I've got Brett Rickey here. He's the CEO of Pure Defense, and he's got some information that really people just don't understand. And so I wanted him to answer some questions. So welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jeff. Glad to be
Absolutely.
here.
I am so excited. These we're getting questions, and I think people are asking the wrong questions. So I'm gonna kind of just point you right into it, but you're gonna help us ask the right questions because I think no one really understands. So let's first talk about the difference between 99.9% and 99.9999%. And I know that it's been a whole marketing thing for years, and we all believe that 99.9% is good. But tell me, why is 99.9% just not enough?
Well, you're absolutely right, Jeff. And we all grew up on that. I had a mother, for example, that believed that bleach was the best disinfectant you could have that would kill anything. And what wasn't focused on was the fact that not only is it a carcinogenic, but in the world of disinfection, as I was doing my research and compiling data, I learned that there's a sliding scale on the effectiveness of a disinfection method, which is called log reduction, which is where your 99.9% comes into play. So essentially, there's a scale from a log reduction of a 1 up into a log reduction of 6, depending on how effective a disinfection method is. And by effective, we mean how it kills the bacteria, the virus, the spore, the mold, the fungus, whatever that is being used to kill. How effective is that method? 99.9% has become the norm um, in disinfection, and we've been branded to believe that that is an acceptable percentage for killing viruses or bacteria, and it simply isn't. A 99.9% effective rating in the term of that sliding scale I just mentioned is a log reduction of a 3, middle of the road. So what does that mean? Like you have in the prop there, if you take a CFM, which in the disinfection world, that is known as a colony formation unit, essentially a quantity of virus or bacteria microorganisms. So let's just say you had a million microorganisms of a bacteria in an environment, in a room, for example, and you applied a disinfection method that had a 99.9% effective capability. What that means is after that method has been deployed, meaning after you douse that entire area with whatever chemical or whatever product that you're using with that effectiveness rating, you are still going to have 1,000 living microorganisms still in that environment. And we're talking that they can mutate, they can reproduce. Um, and not only that, but if you think about it, not only are you going to have 1,000 bacteria or virus remaining, you are going to have the strongest strands of those viruses and bacteria, the ones that survived that 99.9% effectiveness. So there's so many products out there right now that are claiming that they can kill COVID-19, they can kill bacteria, they can kill viruses. And what they're not letting you know and what they're not doing is reading the fine print, whereas they're not killing them all. Now, there are methods out there that have a log reduction of 6, and those are much more effective than 99.9999% in this same sliding scale of a million microorganisms in an environment. Means that after that disinfection method has been deployed, there is only one microorganism remaining in that environment. And you even get to the point where there's some methods that have even a 6 plus, which then you're talking about a true sterilized environment where nothing is remaining that's alive, and it's 100% kill rate.
Wow, that information, I just don't think. I mean, you're right. I think I've been grown and raised to understand that 99.9%, that's good enough. But I
Sure.
can see here where I definitely would rather have one virus bug left versus 100,000 virus bugs left. So with that next thought process in mind, people also are looking toward what I'm going to say, all the different options that are available to them to do disinfection. And so I think the most popular one that when I was doing my research before the show is this UV light thing. And I understand that UV light may work, but is it really the right answer? And have we decided that do people really know what they're getting into? So help me understand why UV light's probably not the right answer either.
Sure. Well, a couple things on UV lighting. First of all, it is a disinfection method that's available, and UV lighting is effective around certain parameters, but it's the parameters that isn't really discussed. UV lighting manufacturers and distributors and resellers like to tote the fact that, hey, we can have a log reduction of 4, a 5, even a 6 of some, not all, but some bacteria or microorganisms. But what they don't tell you is that in order to achieve that effectiveness rating, you have to be in very close proximity to that UV light. Well, what does that mean? Well, most UV systems are stationary, meaning they're placed in an environment. Let's just say you've got a 10-foot by 10-foot room, and that UV device is placed in the center of the room, and you walk out and you turn it on. Well, anything that is, within a foot of that UV light has a lot more likely percentage rate of having something killed or disinfected as opposed to 10 feet away. And how I like to describe this is, I'm sure we've all either been in ourselves or know someone that's been in a tanning bed. Well, if you get in a tanning bed and you lay down and you pull that bed down over your head, you can feel the heat emulsion from the top and the bottom of that bed because you're very close to it. You can feel it. If you lift that bed up, you get up, you walk 5 or 10 feet to the end of the room, you're not going to feel any heat at all. And it's the same thing with the degree of effectiveness. UV lighting is not an overall, in my opinion, effective tool for disinfection because it doesn't provide the same intensity of disinfection in the entire environment that it's placed in. That's number one. Second thing to note too, and by your graphic here is precisely accurate, is UV lights are essentially placed to, I guess, focus their disinfection and heat towards a specific set of surfaces that is exposed. What is exposed? Perfect example in your diagram. The top of a table is exposed. But beneath that table, any chair legs or any furniture that's underneath isn't going to be hit by that UV light whatsoever. Therefore, you have what they call shadow areas in an environment where it's completely 100% not effective at all because none of the UV light is touching anything that's hidden or underneath anything. So those are just a couple examples of why UV light, in my opinion, is not an effective means to truly get 100% of a target environment disinfected.
Absolutely. So now I know that you have been kind of at the forefront of this whole COVID outbreak, and you had reasons and have been working on coming up with solutions that are actually better than the alternatives for many different reasons. But let's talk about, so if Clorox or bleach or whatever the right name is to disclaimers, I don't own either of those companies, so I'm not trying to advertise for them, but and those are owned by those brands, by the way. If it's not the right answer, if UV's not the right answer, if this other method's not the right answer, what have you come up with and what are you guys using to actually help all your clients and all the folks that you work with? And I've got a quick graphic that will hopefully answer the visual part of it, but I want you to tell the story as we play through this next slide. So
sure. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a fogging system, which anyone that's doing any research in the realm of disinfection is going to understand that one of the solutions is fogging. But two components of that are important to recognize. Number one is the size of the droplets. So the aerosol that's produced from any type of disinfection method that using a fogging method is important for a couple reasons. Number one, you want to have a particle that's smaller in size than the particle of the virus or bacterial microorganism you're trying to kill, because then you're going to have true penetration into killing that microorganism. That's number one. Secondly, the smaller the particles in a fogging system, the faster that area and fog is going to not only dissipate, but dwell and dry to be able to use that environment again. There are fogging systems out there that require, after the disinfection method has been deployed, that you have to leave that environment to dry for anywhere to 2 to 4, even 24-hour period. That doesn't really make it that accessible to businesses or other individuals that want to use that space. The second thing is that having a smaller particle that's aerosolized is going to allow for what we call 100% capture of the environment, meaning that 100% of the environment is going to be exposed to that disinfection method or process. So, for example, in the UV light example we were speaking about earlier, the UV light could not penetrate underneath a table. It couldn't get inside anything that was being hidden by other furniture in the room or exposed that wasn't exposed. What you see here with the system that we've integrated is that we can achieve a 100% exposure rate, meaning every part of that environment is going to be penetrated with our fogging system because of how we aerosolize the solution when we do our fogging method. But also, it's important to note too, in relation to you mentioned bleach and other less effective log3 reduction method systems, is that essentially you're not going to be exposed to anything that's carcinogenic, any chemicals. We have a 100%, and we're not the only ones, but we have 100% organic food grade solution that's expelled in our system. So that means that there's no chemicals, no harsh chemicals, no carcinogenics, anything that's left on the surfaces once deployed. If you have a young child that comes in, picks something up, picks up a toy from a daycare, for example, even puts something in their mouth, there is no worry, no harm that anything is going to happen, because the products that we use are, again, food grade, organic, and safe. You can't say that with the bleach and other chemicals that are used in a majority of fogging systems that are being offered right now. In fact, it's a little bit of a reverse psychology. People see workers in full hazmat gear with masks covering their faces, serious equipment, and they think, wow, this must be really effective method they're deploying to be that dressed up in that much protective gear. It's just the opposite. If these people are wearing full hazmat gear, there's a reason. And the reason is because the chemicals they are deploying are so carcinogenic, so hazardous, so unhealthy to the human touch that they themselves know this, which is why they're going to make sure that they are completely protected when they're deploying this. So if you see someone in full gear, chances are that's something that you do not want sprayed anywhere where you're going to be in yourself or anyone that you know, because it could have lasting and harmful effects if you're exposed to those chemicals throughout a long period of time. And that's what people don't understand either. It's not just touching something once. We're in the crisis right now with the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on, and people are disinfecting their living spaces where they work on a daily basis. This has been going on for what, 10 months now, 8, 9, 10 months. So constant daily exposure to these chemicals has been proven to lead to some serious long-term and ongoing health problems.
Well, I think that if that is not enough to make people pause and stop and think about what it is they're using for their disinfection, what services using, who they're using, and really more importantly, in my mind, lawmakers and these folks that are making the decisions for our country on what the standards should be, I think they need to understand that there is a difference. And I hope that this message gets to them and they do their research. And like everything else, believe what you hear, but validate, validate, validate. We're always going to tell you that. We're always going to bring you information that's ahead of the news. So hopefully, we appreciate you so much for being on. We'll probably have you on for more questions because I can already see here that there's questions popping up. So I appreciate your time. We'll invite you back again, but thank you so much and we appreciate it. Any last minute quotes or anything you want to tell us before we leave?
I just appreciate the opportunity. I myself did not know any of this. Like I said before, I grew up with an Italian mother that loved to clean and made sure everything was disinfected. And from a very young age, I can remember her speeches about bleach and how bleach kills everything. And we just didn't know back then. And I'm not here to tell anyone what to use. Do your own research. But there are non-chemical, organic, food grade products that are available that achieve a higher disinfection rate that what I call mentally manipulated into believing is effective, because it's not. 99.9% is just not good enough. And you owe it to yourselves, and you owe it to your family, you owe it to your coworkers, as businesses do, as lawmakers do, in my belief, if there's a superior product or system available out there, we're talking about human lives here. And it's up to us to do everything we can to ensure the safety of our loved ones and everyone around the globe. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you, Jeff. I look forward to coming back anytime you'd like to have me. And I just appreciate all that you're doing to bring awareness to something that's extremely important right now with everything going on in the world.
Thank you so much. You guys check out hype.com for extended content, and we will talk to you next time.